Why didn't the United States annex the Yucatan Peninsula? The Yucatan Peninsula, once the heart of the thriving Maya civilization, later came under the rule of the Spanish Empire, the Mexican Empire, and today, the modern Republic of Mexico. But for a fleeting and extraordinary moment, a chain of brutal and bizarre events almost transformed this ancient land into a new territory of the United States. This peculiar tale matches the enigmatic nature of the Yucatan itself. The region had always been a harsh and perilous frontier for European settlers. With its unforgiving terrain, sparse navigable rivers, and diseases rampant in the tropical climate, the Yucatan posed immense challenges to colonists. Meanwhile, the fiercely independent Maya people resisted European domination well into the 17th century. Even after Spain managed to exert some control, their grip was tenuous at best. Local elites, or hidalgos, retained considerable autonomy, operating far from the prying eyes of central authorities. In 1823, after Mexico's victory in its War of Independence from Spain, the Yucatan briefly declared itself an independent republic. However, within months, it opted to join the newly formed Mexican state. Despite this formal union, the Yucatan's elite maintained a significant degree of freedom, governing their lands with minimal interference. Unfortunately, this independence did not extend to the native Maya population, who faced rampant discrimination and oppression. Forced into near slavery on plantations owned by European and mestizo elites, the Maya endured systemic marginalization of their language, culture, and very identity. By 1841, tensions with Mexico boiled over once again, and Yucatecan leaders declared independence. At the time, Mexico was grappling with numerous crises, including the loss of Texas and internal political instability, culminating in President Anastasio Bustamante being ousted by Antonio López de Santa Anna. Santa Anna initially attempted negotiations with the Yucatecan Republic, but when talks broke down, he resorted to military force. Seizing the port city of Ciudad del Carmen, he effectively strangled Yucatan's trade and launched an invasion of the peninsula. However, the Republic had already mustered an army composed almost entirely of Maya soldiers and successfully repelled Mexican forces, forcing Santa Anna to begrudgingly accept Yucatecan autonomy. Yet, within Yucatan, internal divisions ran deep. Santiago Mendez's Campeche faction leaned toward reuniting with Mexico, while Miguel Barbachano's Mérida faction favored independence. Power shifted back and forth between these rival camps, with the governorship alternating 6 times between 1841 and 1846. By late 1846, the factions had grown so divided that Yucatan effectively operated under 2 separate governments, each with its own stance on the region's future. Complicating matters further, the Mexican-American War erupted in April 1846. While the more pro-unification Mendez advocated for neutrality and independence to avoid conflict with the United States, the typically pro-independence Barbachano argued for aligning with Mexico. The United States disrupted this delicate balance in October 1846 when Commodore Matthew Perry's naval forces seized Ciudad del Carmen and imposed a blockade on the Yucatan. Washington seemed to consider the Yucatan an open target. In January 1847, the Yucatecan Republic sent an envoy to Washington seeking recognition of its neutrality. While the U.S. eventually agreed to this request, they did not relinquish control of Ciudad del Carmen. For a brief moment, it seemed the Yucatecans might navigate these turbulent waters, but things took a dramatic turn in July 1847. Sensing the government's vulnerability, the Maya, led by Manuel Antonio I, Cecilio Chi, and Jacinto Pat, began planning a revolt. Although A was captured and executed, his death became a rallying cry. Chi and Pat launched a full-scale uprising, igniting the bloody conflict known as the Caste War. The Caste War was, by all accounts, a brutal and racially charged conflict. The Maya aimed to expel or exterminate the European and mestizo populations, while the latter sought to crush the Maya rebellion through violent suppression. In retaliation for Ai's execution, Maya forces attacked towns, killing every non-Maya they encountered. The rebellion quickly overwhelmed Yucatan's rural areas, isolating the white population in urban centers. Desperate for assistance, Yucatan's leaders turned to the United States. In late 1847, Mendez's son-in-law, Justo Sierra O'Reilly, traveled to Washington as an envoy. He skillfully appealed to American fears of European interference, suggesting that Britain and Spain were covertly supporting the Maya. These claims played on the United States' commitment to the Monroe Doctrine, which opposed European intervention in the Americas. While O'Reilly succeeded in securing some relief, such as reduced tariffs and embargoes, the situation in Yucatan continued to deteriorate. By early 1848, the Maya were on the verge of routing the government entirely. In a last-ditch effort, Yucatecan leaders made an extraordinary proposal in March 1848. They offered sovereignty over the peninsula to the United States, Britain, or Spain in exchange for military aid. This unprecedented move shocked O'Reilly, who despised the idea but understood its necessity. When he relayed the proposal to President James K. Polk, it caught the administration's attention. Polk, wary of British or Spanish expansion, saw an opportunity to secure the region under American influence. He presented the Yucatan's plight to Congress, framing it as both a humanitarian crisis and a racial imperative to protect the white population from annihilation. The proposed Yucatan bill called for U.S. military intervention, potentially paving the way for annexation. However, the bill quickly became mired in partisan politics. Democrats supported intervention, citing the Monroe Doctrine, while Whigs opposed it, arguing that it was an unnecessary entanglement and risked provoking Mexico. The debate devolved into a political spectacle, with both sides using the issue to score points ahead of the 1848 presidential election. Before the bill could progress, news arrived in May 1848 that the Yucatecan government had signed a peace treaty with the Maya. The crisis appeared resolved, and the Yucatan bill was abruptly abandoned. Polk and Congress quickly shifted their focus, leaving O'Reilly humiliated and his warnings dismissed as alarmist. Although the treaty between the Yucatecan government and the Maya collapsed shortly after, Washington's interest had already waned. The Yucatecan Republic ultimately turned to Mexico, which sent troops to quell the rebellion in exchange for the region's reintegration. By 1849, the Mexican flag once again flew over the peninsula, and the caste war simmered on in diminished form until 1901. Today, the Yucatan remains a part of Mexico. Its turbulent years of independence and the fleeting possibility of American annexation reduced to a fascinating footnote in history. Thank you for watching this fascinating journey into the history of the Yucatan Peninsula. If you enjoyed this video, share it with others who love diving into hidden corners of history. What historical event would you like us to explain next? Let us know in the comments, and see you in the next video.